The first name giver is God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Genesis 1:1-10. I pose this question to you. Why did God change the names of certain individuals in the Bible? And what does it signify when God gives a name? With this in mind, I want to discuss the premise that the first name giver is God, as seen in Genesis 1. In the act of creation described in Genesis, God names things. He calls the light day and the darkness night. This act of naming is intrinsic to God's creative power. By speaking these names, God brought order to creation, and the world was formed as he named it. Thus, God is the first name giver. In the Bible, names carry profound significance. For example, when God changed Abram to Abraham, it was not just a name change. Abram struggled to resist the temptations of the world, but when God renamed him Abraham, he became the father of faith, even to the point of offering his son Isaac on Mount Moriah. Similarly, Jacob, whose name means deceiver, was renamed Israel, signifying the birth of the church and the victory in spiritual warfare. God's act of renaming reflected his plans and purposes, and the new names symbolized their destinies. The history of Israel is one of spiritual warfare. While Abraham's descendants engaged in physical battles, they also represent the spiritual battles of God's people. For example, the name Israel is more than a designation. It encapsulates God's covenant with his people. Similarly, Noah's son Shem's lineage, specifically through Eber, is recorded in Genesis 10 as chosen. Eber's descendants, Peleg and Joktan, represent God's explicit covenant people and his implicit covenant community. Names in the Bible are not mere labels. They embody divine plans and destinies. This is why Adam's naming of the animals signifies the importance of understanding the meaning and existence behind names. While Adam named his wife Eve, God referred to her as woman, which signifies the church, holding profound spiritual symbolism. God's people must understand the significance of names. Improperly chosen names can lead to misguided lives, necessitating God's intervention to rename individuals. For example, Isaac's name was given by God before his birth. Though it means laughter, it carried divine significance as God named him in the womb, granting life through that name. Conversely, Ishmael, born of human effort through Hagar, received his name from an angel in response to Hagar's cries, showing the contrast between divine purpose and human endeavor. This distinction is evident in the names Jacob and Esau. Jacob, meaning heel grabber or deceiver, received his name from his father, while Esau, meaning red and hairy, was also named for his appearance. Yet God chose Jacob despite his deceitful life, while Esau, who despised his birthright, lived up to the shallowness of his name. These names reveal that God's chosen people, despite their flaws, are molded into his plan, while those not chosen, no matter how good their deeds, find their efforts meaningless before God. Today's church must grasp the importance of names. After decades of studying the principles of names, I am convinced that people live according to their names. Though we are born into destinies beyond our control, is there a way to change that destiny? This question led me to research the mysteries of names, focusing on the phonetic and elemental principles of the Korean language. Through this study, I developed the principles behind what I call the Korean Hangul name system. As a pastor and a researcher of names, my journey began with the genealogy of Jesus in the New Testament. To understand this, I had to delve into the Old Testament figures, discovering that their names were not merely labels, but encapsulations of God's will and providence. For example, David's name means beloved, and his life reflected God's love, ultimately leading to his role as an ancestor of Jesus. Names are more than designations. They shape lives and destinies. Similarly, in the sound waves of each name lie energies that influence one's life, relationships, wealth, success, health, and more. However, many fail to recognize this truth. Churches often dismiss the significance of names as superstition, yet the church, more than any other institution, should appreciate their importance. Through names, we can glimpse God's providence. Pastors should deeply reflect on why God gave and sometimes changed the names of biblical figures. Names are not trivial. They reflect divine truths, and understanding them leads us closer to God's plan. Let us take this to heart as we seek to align our lives with His will.